One of the things that you've been directly involved in after you come back is the process of post-COVID resolution. You set the benchmarks for the one-time restructuring which the central bank had permitted. Sir, I'm not asking you for numbers or anything, but the impression one gets from speaking to bankers is that the extent of restructuring this time has been much lower than what people would have expected. Even Crystal said that 99% of their rated companies do not intend to go in for it. Can you give us a sense, sir, on what you think is happening on the ground? Is it better than expected economic rebound? Is it demand, supply, maturity that restructuring doesn't actually cure anything, it just delays things?
Three things, as we can see. One, going into the crisis, when I looked at the numbers, when I took on this task, the corporates seem to be in much better shape than they were ever earlier. I repeat that, ever earlier. So for ever earlier, I go back to 2000, and that's a long enough strength. When the leverage used to be 4.5:1, total debt to equity. Then you look at 2010, leverage used to be possibly 2.4:1. And today, if you look at as a representative sample, the Sensex companies, most of them are deleveraged. And when I say deleveraged, their leverage are less than 0.5:1. So you're talking of a sample size which is significantly deleveraged as compared to the past. I would think that there would have been pressure on the small and medium industry side. There, I think the initial handholding done by the government went a long way in alleviating the pain. The third is the retail side of it. And I would think that the early handholding done by the banks themselves, consequent to what the regulator allowed them to do, I think has gone a long way in putting that part of the borrower, or the segment of the borrower, on its feet. So I think there is a holistic force at work here, which has kept companies in better shape than they might have otherwise been. One. Other important part is the economy has recovered much faster than what anybody gave credit for or thought could happen. So that also has worked in this context. So I hear what the bankers are saying, that the situation is much better than what they had anticipated. I think it is also better than what I had anticipated.
Is it wishful thinking, Mr. Kamath, that some lessons were also learned from the last cycle where restructuring simply delayed the pain? So maybe the bankers were a little bit more cautious this time. And same for the borrowers. They may have realized that there would be long-term implication on their borrowing costs, on their ratings. And hence, there was a very judicious approach, perhaps, to restructuring this time compared to last time.
If you see, something interesting has also happened. I think a lot of corporates have moved to try to see how they could reduce costs, borrowing costs in particular. And that is visible in the Q2 numbers. So a whole lot of things have happened. They started with a cleaner balance sheet, significantly more deleveraged than the past. They worked on getting their interest costs down. The bankers understood the game. And most importantly, the government acted to provide a helping hand very early on as required. The combination of these has meant that things have worked out for the good.
So there are still some suggestions, from the IBA suggesting that the time period should be extended till March. Some sectors like real estate have questioned whether the guidelines were too tough. Do you foresee the need to either extend the period or change the benchmark, sir?
I would leave this to the regulator, really, because we have done what we were asked to do. And now it is something that the regulator and the banks could work on.